Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to the Why Am I Stuck in Combatant episode of a series where we're going to go over why you're hard stuck at a certain rating, certain, tier. When we consider about what being hard stuck means is that you've played hundreds of games in that section of, whether it's Combatant 1400 to 1600, whether it is Challenger 1618, Rival 1821, 2124 for Duelist. We're not really going to cover Elite because I feel like that's getting too nitpicky. I really couldn't really tell you what the difference between like a 24 and a 2500 player is as well. So the first episode we're talking about Combatant, and obviously I wasn't really originally going to cover Combatant in this, but I know that there's a lot of people who are just returning to the game, new people who've just gotten into Arena, and they're at that 1400 range at the moment. So I guess the equivalent to 1400 in my head would be, I guess, silver or bronze, high bronze, low silver on most other games, League, StarCraft 2, Overwatch, stuff like that. Challenger is gold. Rivals, sort of plat. I guess Duelist is diamond. And then, Gladiator is sort of like master. Obviously, rank 1 being Grandmaster. So you can sort of get an idea of where you're situated if you're new to the game and you haven't really played too much. The majority of people who play Arena are between 1400 to 1800, with the like a huge weighting towards, I guess, that lower end of things. So, why are you stuck at that rating, which is the point of this video? I'm going to break this down into 4 key areas for each sort of rank. So, for Combatant, I think the biggest thing for you as why you're stuck there is probably your understanding of your own class, your rotation, and a lack of basic understanding of win conditions, what the other classes do, what your role in the arena is. So, breaking that down further, I'll give you an example. When you play with a mage at 1400, what you'll see them do a lot is they'll either poly, and that's all they do. They'll just poly random targets, and they won't really look at diminishing returns. They might just be spamming polys out non-stop, not really focusing on doing any damage, or they'll do the inverse, right? Which is they'll only be casting Fireball and Combustion. That's it, Fireball Combustion. They never go CC the healer, or if they try and CC the healer, like it's a really weak attempt at it. They know they should, but they don't really know how to yet. Get, polys and DB polys consistently, use Glimmer, all this kind of stuff. That's a Mage's Example. For a warrior, I feel like they either focus too much on the defensive aspect of the game. They're in defense the whole game. They're using intervene on cooldown for no reason whenever they drop below 70%, or they're the opposite, where they only think about damage in a really like superficial way. They're like, I'm going to pop every single button on them, not really understand their rotation very well. I think for melee classes in particular, when you have a rotation that's sort of priority based, so use overpowers, then mortal strike, then use condemn on this time. Like a lot of them don't really understand that too well, or they're not comfortable. It's not muscle memory yet, which is completely understandable because usually it's probably your first time in arenas. The other thing is knowing when to trade cooldowns. So when a mage uses combustion, what button do you press? If you're versing rogue mage and he stuns you, do you trinket instantly? Like what's the mindset there? So this type of thing is built up. Like your skill in that is obviously to play a shit ton of games, which is the easiest cop out advice possible, right? But I think if you're looking for a more efficient way to improve that, it's almost just to copy what other warriors do, or what other classes in your what other players in your class do. So if you're playing like a mage, maybe go look not necessarily to rank 1 mage, just because I feel like a lot of their gameplay isn't going to easily relate to you. But maybe look on streams for like a 2500 CR mage, and see what he's doing, how he approaches the game. Obviously, rank one mages, those top level mages, are really good to look at, but it might be too overwhelming for you to actually understand what's happening. Because there's a whole bunch of coordination, there's a whole bunch of like minutia there, and in my opinion, you just want to break it down generally to saying when do I use my CC and how do I do damage for pretty much every class, every DPS class. For healers, different story, and we might cover healers in another section. But for DPS, um, you need to know when to use your offensive cooldowns based on your class. So if it's a mage, like polying the healer and then combusting, generally a good rule of thumb when to use combustion. Um, for a warrior, when you can stay on the target, use Avatar Colossal Smash, keep the damage up. Don't overcomplicate it for yourself. For your rotation, you can pull that either from watching streams, or majority of the time the PvE rotation translates pretty closely to the PvP rotation. So for like warrior, it's just really adding in hamstring, prioritizing the mortal wounds, like keeping the mortal wounds debuff on the target instead of just looking only at deep wounds, and understanding how to use your stun, what the DRs of it are. So it's pretty straightforward to pick up. So that's a skill element. That's probably one huge reason why you're stuck at 14 to 1600. You also need to know what your win condition is. So against, like, if you're playing rogue mage, your win condition is you either probably kill them in the opener, or you get a whole bunch of cooldowns from them in the opener, you run away, you reset, you do the same CC chain, you poly the healer or you poly the DPS, and then you stun the other target. And then because they've got no trinkets, you win. If you're playing something like Warrior HPAL, it's like you either decide, okay, we're going to grind this game out slowly and them because, HPAL is pretty efficient at healing. Or, you're lining up stuns and reps to land a kill on a certain target, the DPS or the healer. Same thing sort of applies for threes. If you're playing TSG, you know that your big go and how you win is you do one huge go at the start where you grip everyone in and sleet them and spear afterwards, bladestorm, all this good stuff. They use a whole bunch of defensive cooldowns, and then you do that again when they don't have the defensive cooldowns, because the cooldown of their defensives is typically longer than the cooldown of your offensives. So definitely big thing to take into consideration. In regards to teams that you play and teams that you're versing, I feel like the comps at 1400 and 1600 are kind of like random. You'll see like Affilock DH, you'll see like Affilock Windwalker Monk, which is actually not that bad, but you get the point. You'll just see rando fucking comps that aren't really following a meta, and you don't have to be. You can play these comps to 18, 200, 2100 if you're a good player, 2400. But the reality of it is, if you are looking for the best chance to improve your rating, it's smarter to play a meta comp. If you're like a warrior, rat warrior, turbo, warrior shadow priest versus like warrior, I don't know, what's it, double warrior, HPAL or something. I feel like Warriors work in so many comps. I just couldn't think of a bad one at the top of my head. So yeah, like you generally want to find comps that are meta, and how you generally find the meta is to look at, I guess, what's at the top of the leaderboards when you watch streams. What are people versing? And I'd also take that with a grain of salt, because while at the top of arena maybe there's less. I mean, there's heaps of ret warriors and turbos, but I'm gonna say let's assume there's less ret warriors and turbos because it's easily countered, quote unquote, easily countered at high ratings. But that's still a really good comp at low ratings because people don't know how to counter that. There's too much damage coming out. It overwhelms people. So while a comp may not be the top of the ladder or the top AWC comp, it could still really be good at farming ladder games because it's a hard comp for people to react to. They don't know which defenses to press, so on and so forth, right? I guess, if I look at LFG, I do think the majority of people do end up playing pretty like decent comps, but 2K CR, 1400 CR enhancement, Boomy enhancement. I'm like sure that's okay, but you see a whole bunch of rando fucking comps. that just aren't necessarily the best one, and you don't have to play the best one. But if you're like, oh, I'm really stuck at 1400, I need a way to improve. There's one easy fix: just play better comps, right? So we move to the next thing, right? Which is your gear. So 1400 to 1600 usually is a bit awkward. It's not that much of a gear disadvantage, but people will tend to have. I've got 226, but like you'll verse a lot of people who have 213 or 220 gear, and you might only have 207 because you just have combatant. There's no real way around that except for grinding games and getting lucky with LFG and hopefully finding someone else who has good gear in your group. One thing you can do is you can consider doing RBGs because RBGs are a lot easier than doing arena. Like it's like the inflation's way higher, so you can kind of get like 1600, 1800 RBGs pretty quickly and close the geared gap. But especially around 1550, 1500, when you're pushing 1600, you'll notice way more people in like 213, like full 213 or higher gear than you would at 1400 because people just don't have much access to that gear yet. And that's a theme that we're going to talk about a lot, especially in Challenger. Just as a preview, I think Challenger 1700 is probably the biggest gear gap between like Challenger gear and rival gear because rival gear is 220. The only way you get rival gear is either like arena or the vault or mythic raid. I know the last three bosses in heroic give like 220 gear, but apart from that, there's no other source. And you're going to invest a lot of RBGers at that rating. So, there's people who have 226 gear, so on and so forth. So we're going to talk about that more in the next why you hardstuck. In terms of gear, that's something that if you are at like 195 eye level, you're just gonna have to farm conquest, farm honor, get as geared as possible. Consider getting BOEs if you need to, stuff like that. And finally, the last point with LFG is you're going to verse a lot of cheesy comps too. You're going to verse triple DPS, prop pally, double fire mage, all these kinds of all this kind of bullshit. And I think in that sense, it's really, really important to just chill out, not panic, because a lot of those teams only win because you panic and do something stupid. So if you keep chilled and you're able to just respond to the situation using your understanding of your defensives and game sense, you should be able to beat most of those teams if you have a good team. I guess the final point, final kind of axis is the lack of communication. So I hazard a guess that majority of people who are between 1400 and 1600 do not use Discord for any of their games. Twos, threes, whatever, unless they're playing with close friends and they're just learning the game, which is good. What you should try and do if you feel like you're really, really hard stuck is find someone else, like a healer if you're a DPS if you're a healer, stuff like that, who is really keen on pushing out of 1500, 1400, wherever you are. Get them on Discord, build up that chemistry and understanding that synergy so that you're able to win so many more games because you're not going to overuse defensives, you're going to be able to coordinate CC, you're going to be able to coordinate damage, all this kind of stuff. I highly recommend that as a big way that you can break through that rating because everyone else you're versing between 1400 and, to be honest, 2100 is probably not using Discord. So just the ability to communicate means you're going to win so many more games than you would before. So even though you might feel, I guess, a bit awkward jumping on comms at such a low rating, don't even think about it. Just if you're serious and you want to push, you're keen for it to grind arena, just get on Discord, suck it up, and play with someone, talk to them. You're gonna get people who are gonna stay longer because generally, from what I find, if I'm on Discord with someone, even if I'm not really having a good time, I'll at least stay about 3 or 4 more games than I normally would have if I just don't think it's working. So use that to your advantage. Hopefully, you're going to invest boosters, but you're going to invest boosters throughout the entire ladder. That's just something you have to accept. We'll talk about how to deal with boosters at the end of the series, specifically like strategies to verse them, because I've done a whole bunch of boosting as well. And, what I tend to find very difficult when you're doing a boost. I don't do them anymore. I did at the start of the expansion. But that's it for this video. Hopefully this was useful. Didn't really have much content to show like on the screen Could have showed BGs, but I don't want it to be like distracting. I really want you guys to listen to the points here. If you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing to the YouTube channel. I really, really appreciate it. We're trying to get 10,000 subs by the end of next month, so May. So if you're able to subscribe and you like the content, let me know. If you are hardstuck in Combatant and you do think there's something I missed that was really big, let me know in the comments below. Always appreciate it, and it helps other people know that too. We're going to be releasing the Challenger one very soon because I just want to get this series out there. I've been planning it for a long time, so well, not really planning it, but it's been in my head for a long time. I don't really know the best way to structure it, but I really like this why you are hard stuck at a rating. We're going to do benchmarks before, but I think this is a better way to look at it. The Challenger one I think is going to be really interesting for you guys because I know a lot of you guys are stuck at that rating, and we can learn a lot from that. And same thing with the Rival and Duelist. All right, guys, take it easy. Follow the stream if you want to watch any gameplay live or ask me any questions. Join the Discord if you want access to resources, to talk to the community. There's heaps of people that answer your questions as well. Super experienced warriors, apart from me, who are lurking around there, who are always happy to help out. So, guys, take it easy. Peace out.